My name is Innocent Aqua. I am presently the only co-chair of this meeting, the Health Committee meeting of Mayor's International Affairs Advisory Commission. And I'm hoping that by the end of the meeting, we may get the other co-chair. I want to thank everybody for showing up for this meeting. I know we had to go through a lot to be able to get a time that will be convenient for a good number of us to be present. And I know we are each sacrificing something to be here. I appreciate that very much. We would try to be mindful of the time. We are scheduled for 2 hours. If possible, we may try to get out in a little less than that. So we'll see as it goes. I think before we proceed, I was not sure calling anybody by name so that I don't make mistakes. It may be good that we go ahead and do some introduction before we proceed, if that's all right. I started with myself, so can we continue, please? Just next person introduce ourselves. The next person I see is Diana Queen.
You're muted, Diana.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to see you all. And I just, Diana Queen, and I'm the president of the Kentucky Center for Restorative Justice. And also I am one of the Mayor's International Advisory Affairs Commission, newly appointed, one of the co-chairs. And it is good to be with all of you and good to see your wonderful smiling faces. And we're excited about 2021, I'll just say that. And I am very appreciative of Mr. Aqua taking on this task. It's a very important committee. And I do hope today he's going to encourage co-chairs, and I know that somebody's going to step up. So, but it's really good to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Queen. The next I see is Christina.
I'm Christina King. I'm the Communications Generalist with the Lexington Fayette County Health Department. And we were invited to attend the meeting this morning just to see if there's any ways we can help you with the outreach.
Thank you very much, Christina. I know we were trying to get Mr. Hall here. Isabel recommended him that he could be of help to our committee. We understand he's a very busy person, and he did promise he was going to send you in, and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Crystal?
Oh, thank you. My name is Crystal Roddy, and I am a chair of all graduate programs at Georgetown College and a member of the board of directors of the International Association of Teaching English as a Second or Foreign Language. And I represent Europe on this committee, and I hope we can get some work done.
Okay. Thank you very much, Crystal. We'll move on to Dr. Kalala.
My name is Kongolo Kalala, and I teach economics at the Bluegrass Community and Technical College. I'm representing Africa, the same as Innocent Aqua, and I co-chair the Mayor International Affairs Advisory Commission of Diana Queen.
Thank you very much, Kongolo. Then we move on to Basil.
Hello, everyone. I'm Basil Touchon. I'm a medical doctor by training, born, raised, and trained in Syria. Have been in Lexington for a few years, and I've been working in immigration education, actually, like mainly after moving to Lexington, and I'm currently the district's EL and refugee ambassador for Fayette County Public Schools. I started with Fayette County, small role in one of the schools as the refugee liaison, then I became the refugee advocate for the district, and now they're ambassadors. So I felt that my healthcare training / my relationship with the refugee and immigrant communities in Lexington would be a good fit for this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Basil. We are glad to have you here. I must mention here that Basil was the first person that indicated during the last meeting that we held that he would love to join this committee, and I appreciate that very much. We'll move on to Tim.
You guys hear me all right? I'm Tim Brandewy. I'm the Emergency Operations Manager for Fayette County. I've been in that position for about 17 years. Prior to that, I had a 20-year career in the intelligence services, and I have a extensive amount of overseas experience living and working. So I'm assuming that's why I was nominated. Happy to be here.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. We appreciate you. We're happy having you here too. Next person is Kelso.
Hi, my name's Kelsey, but I go by Kelso. I'm sitting in for my MSW class at University of Kentucky. I received my Bachelor's of Public Health last spring and my CHES back in October, and I'd like to do community organizing and work at the micro level, and I just wanted to sit in on a public health meeting because you don't get a chance to talk to other public health people that often.
Thank you very much, Kelso. We're happy having you here, and we hope you'll be able to go away from here with something useful. Thank you. Hello, Isabel.
Good morning, everyone. Tim, thank you for being here. Christina. Basso, I have to beg your forgiveness. I did not know you were a medical doctor. Pardon that.
Oh, you're fine.
I was not aware, and thank you also. I'm Isabel Taylor. I'm in the mayor's office and I run Global X.
Thank you very much, Isabel. And I've had to exchange a lot of emails with Isabel, and I feel very encouraged that a few people here that I can reach out to at any time. I know I'll get a response promptly. Isabel is one of the many of them. Thanks very much. Yeah. Nadia?
Yeah, my name is Nadia Rashid, and I'm a practicing physician. I've been in Lexington 30 years. And I'm active in the community and in the local mosque, and I'm part of CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, and I'm going to do my best to help move forward.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Thanks. And let's see, Dr. Rania. You're muted.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rania, and I'm the language access specialist with Global X, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Rania.
Thank you.
Yeah, as in international communities, we surely have a lot to do with languages, and I think you'll be very useful for us. We appreciate you being here. Megan, it's the last person I see. Megan, if you are talking, you're muted. We can't hear you yet. Okay.
This is Melissa. Are we talking about Melissa McCart-Smith?
I see
Mayor's office.
Megan Gula.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. Her video is muted too, so I can't tell if she's talking there or not. So we'll continue from here. And I want to thank everybody. I noticed everybody introduced themselves by names without title. I hope it's all right for me to continue just addressing everybody by first name. If anybody has a problem with that, can you indicate, please? And thank you very much.
Excuse me, could we introduce Melissa McCart-Smith from our mayor's office? She's been so very, very helpful and really appreciate her support.
I'm so sorry. I forgot to introduce Melissa. She was to the left of me, and I just continued to the right and forgot to come back to the left. So Melissa, can you please introduce yourself now?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I work in the mayor's office. I help assist boards and commissions and get people appointed. And since we've been doing this pandemic stuff all on Zoom, it's been really a challenging thing. So I'm here to help. If you have questions, just let me know.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I must let everybody know that this is happening on Zoom thanks to Melissa, because she helped put this all together. I would not have known how to begin this without her, and she's been a big resource. I appreciate you very much. Okay, so thanks. We can move on from here. So we have our agenda that will follow today. We just got done with introduction, and if we each have those, thank you. We see I had sent this out to everybody with the invitation, just in case anybody does not have it yet. This is the agenda we'll be following today. And I will beg your permission to maybe cut in here, get a little off this agenda for a few minutes. So for the MIAAC Health Committee members who are here, if it's all right with everyone, I was of the opinion that we try to appoint a co-chair so that we start working on together straight away. Is that okay with everybody present?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I see for us members present here, myself, that's Crystal, that's I think Nadia. Is there any other MIAAC committee member present?
I would like to nominate Nadia.
Okay, Crystal nominates Nadia. Nadia, what do you think about that?
Okay, I accept.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nadia. Now I know I have a partner, and I think we can captain this ship together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot relieving to me too. Thank you very much. Yeah. So to move on from here, what do we do next?
Excuse me, Innocent, is there a need, and this is something on co-chair, since the chair is nominated, then do we call for a vote on this particular item? Okay. by the you know, or is this just this is a kind of I don't want to say a gray area, but something we haven't done in the past about having co-chairs for the committee. Dr. Brody, do you have any insight, or Dr. Kalala, about this aspect, or perhaps Isabel on this particular matter?
I think we can do it by affirmation, that if there's no objection, you know, we can by affirmation accept the nomination. And, you know, I think we should call for a discussion first or feedback and give space for that. And if there's none, we can do it by affirmation or acclamation. No, affirmation, yes.
But since there is only one person who is nominated, there are not 2 or 3 people. I believe, like Dr. Brody is saying, we can just go by acclamation.
The bylaws just state that the commission members of the committee just choose. It's very informal.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't have the bylaws in front of me, so I didn't, as a newly appointed co-chair, I did not know the answer to that question. So thank you for that input. So it seems, Dr. Kalala, that, you know, it's just that he, Innocent can appoint. That's great.
Well, thanks for that input, Diana. And I was not thinking of appointing as such. I was just thinking that just being 4 of us here from that committee, it was almost like a majority already if I agreed and Crystal nominated 4 of us in this committee. I think Dr. Boutros is not here. I was of the opinion that if we had to vote, it might have been the MIAAC committee members that would have been voting. Am I right?
Yes, I mean, I believe Isabel is indicating it just, there was no need for any call for a vote or anything. It's what Dr. Brody, everybody, right?
Diana, it as long as the MIAAC committee members are here and they all agree, that's fine. It's in the minutes. It'll be in the minutes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Innocent. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Let me address this about the minutes too. I know we are supposed to keep minutes. Is someone supposed to take down minutes, or is it enough that we are recording this meeting?
I see it is being recorded.
So
it is being recorded, and Rania and I will help to put it down in writing.
Thanks very much for that. All right.
And Innocent, they will need to be posted to the Ms. McCart-Smith, who's on the call here. After the minutes are completed, they will be posted to the LFUCG Boards and Commissions website, so the community at large can see what happened.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much for that. So to move on, because we have invitees here who are not MIAAC committee members or health committee members either, I thought I should just introduce what this committee is all about. First of all, MIAAC, for anybody who may be attending with us for the first time, we are the Mayor's International Affairs Advisory Commission, and this group has committee members, 2 committee members representing each continent of the world. So we have 2 members from each continent, and then we have at-large members, I think a little more than that, which maybe I'm not putting together here in the best way. But all of us, we are expected to be the eyes, the ears of the mayor, to bring information from our communities, our various communities, and to see how the city council, the mayor can help. And in this group at large, the Mayor's International Advisory Affairs Commission group, we have various committees, and our committee here is the Community Emergencies and Public Health Committee. If you would permit me read, this committee is required to identify significant public health issues affecting local immigrant communities. And we also required to support the Fayette County Health Department and the Emergency Management Office in working with local immigrant communities. So that is what this committee is all about. And so this meeting here today, we are required to set goals that we'll be working on for the year. And then immediately start looking at some of the things that we can start doing about that. And these goals, we also have to propose how we'll be achieving the goals that we set down here today. We may also have to set timelines in achieving those goals. And you can see there on the agenda, we mentioned the pandemic that we are all in now, and vaccines being very important of those. So we'll be deliberating on each of those. And then also we will need to set time for committee meetings. That will be the other important thing that we'll be working on today, because it was very difficult setting up this first meeting, but MIAAC usually sets up the committee meeting dates at the beginning of the year. I think the meeting at large has already set up the meeting days for the year. So we hope that we'll be able to set dates for our committee meetings as well. Okay, so that I don't talk a lot all the time, I want to make it now for everybody to be able to participate. Let's dive straight to goals of our committee. And now is the time for us to select goals for our committee. I will throw it to the floor for everybody to participate. What goals do we think we can best work for this year?
I think for the pandemic response, we need to make sure that the immigrant community knows who to call, where to sign up to get the vaccinations, because it's not really easy for people to know where and how to sign up for vaccinations.
And I would like to add to that, we do have populations that do try to stay under the radar legally and don't want to, show up anywhere with any demands. And how can we communicate to people who are, if you want to call it undocumented, or who don't want to be found out, to feel comfortable enough that when they show up at a vaccination site, that ICE will not be there and grab them. That's my big concern. This is, of course, not so much the European perspective, but the larger populations in our town, and how can we bring them in? I don't know how to communicate that to them and build trust.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. We have any other suggestions?
I think an important point too, like everyone earlier said, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on providing information to people who it might that information not reach them, or they don't want to be reached. But also, I think there need to be a lot of outreach of why you need to get the vaccine. Like I saw the other day some poll numbers about like racial and political affiliation and the differences in the willingness of taking the vaccine. So there was a huge disparity where like 40% of like white people said they want to get it as soon as possible, compared to only 20% Black and 26% of Hispanics. And politically too, 47% of Democrats said ASAP versus like 28% of Republicans and 30% of independents. I couldn't find anything that relates to like immigrants and background, but I'd assume it would be a similar picture. And it's super anecdotal, but I kind of saw the same in my experience as well. So I feel there need to be a big effort of explaining to those immigrant communities that may not trust the vaccine for various reasons, why it's a good idea for you to get vaccinated, plus how you can get vaccinated.
Okay. Thank you very much, Basil. So, yes, Diana.
Just a question about if anyone can answer this question. I know within the city, perhaps not only just the mayor's office, or maybe extending further with the council, even beyond, about I know there is a general concern about this topic altogether, that they're worried, not only just for immigrant communities, and certainly we're very focused on that, but the question is there something that's already going on from the public health department, or perhaps the city or the city council, where they are already thinking about and have ideas about how to address similar, or something very similar to this? I know we have a representative from the health department, if they could, or anyone else.
This is always something on our radar. It's something we talk about quite a bit, but just like you, we don't know how to go about doing that. It's something that's very important and very close to our hearts. We want to make sure this outreach gets out, but just like the rest of you, we're How do we do that? What is the best way to do that? How do we know what these challenges are, but now how do we overcome those challenges and get this information to the people that need it the most?
Okay.
Thank you very much, Christina. If I may just follow up with that, if we could get something specific, because just like Bezel said, there is a need for us to place emphasis on providing information and on why people need to take these vaccines. So if we may zero in on that, is there anything that the health department has come across that is like a barrier to people taking this vaccine? Is the health department aware of some myths that some people have that they are putting in front as a reason why they think they should not take the vaccine that you would know of?
Well, right now our main focus is still knocking out those phase 1A and vaccines with healthcare workers, and we've started on phase 1B with the 70 and up community that have mobility issues or technology issues. So that's our main focus as of right now. And then, you know, we hope to expand off of that after we're through those first two phases. But those first two phases don't really apply to this, but so we're not there yet, but it is something in the back of our minds. Now, all of the flyers that we've done, all of the informational posts and videos, we can provide you links and copies of those to translate and use however you need. But as far as that goes, we personally aren't there yet. That's just, we've got to go in these specific preordained stages. So we're not there yet, but it is something in the back of our minds that we're thinking about. And it was something we were thinking about with the testing. That's why when we started our at-home testing program, that was something we hoped to bridge a gap there with that as well. And I think we did to some degree.
Okay.
I think that what we have found, and this kind of is a perennial issue for us, whether it's vaccine or it's preparedness, information and getting people ready, is we try to push the message down to where people are going to go, so where they can hear it from people they may have a little bit more comfort or familiarity with. Like, for example, when we started doing our outreach COVID testing last spring and summer, we would push this information to the new Hispanic Center down in Alexandria, or we would go to some of the African American churches, or we would get representatives that we could get stuff translated. And mainly, it just seemed to us that these communities tend to respond better when they hear it from their own, kind of circle of people that they trust, and us getting to them. And generally, that's what we've had better luck on. There's also Spanish language radio. There's some print. Granted, our focus has been primarily Hispanic focus, even though we have obviously a very significant number of other language groups here. But generally, we try to find the community centers. We've even put up, and I know the health department has too, we push information down, like some little restaurants in town that generally tend to, be frequented, by people of certain backgrounds.
Yeah,
but
I gave several Spanish flyers to some of the food trucks
exactly,
in town at their request. They were very, that worked
thing,
really well.
The places down in Alexandria where I used to live in San Diego, and it's, my gosh, the best street tacos still. But,
oh yeah.
But places like that. I remember we had a big event out at the new outreach center there. So again, I think it's a matter of getting the leadership of some of these civic organizations, briefing them in, giving them a comfort zone, because that message generally tends to be better received.
We've got to make that connection and that partnership. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the government. People see me, I have a light on top of my car, and I get it. I'm fairly experienced in that kind of area. So we have generally tried to find leaders within the community, whether it's religious based or civic groups, and try to get them to be partners in that. And some of these venues have actually offered use of their space for us to come down and do preparedness events, for example, or to do testing events. Like every year, I usually work the Lions Fair up there, which we're not going to have, obviously. But we try to find places where we can target what limited non-English brochures we have and materials, but also having support from interpreters and people who have better contacts in the community and let that message kind of be filtered more through them. I mean, and I know that sounds easy, but it seems to be the more effective for us.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, thank you very much, that team. I appreciate that very much. So, like, we are already covering a lot on our pandemic response, and I think we are already touching a lot too on the vaccine messaging. So, the important thing here was to get our goals for the year, the goals that we'll be working on. So if we would take out 3 from all what we've heard so far, I got the first call was for the individual communities to know who to call and where to go to sign up for the vaccine. So if we would develop a goal around that, could we do that for one of our goals, and then we talk on something concrete on how that goal will be achieved?
Yeah, if I may suggest, because I want to piggyback on what Tim said, like that's a very important point about having those local points of distributing information. But I feel like we have to have a system in place. Like we have to have a centralized plan, maybe something similar to the MIAACs, like ambassadors, where we can identify certain places or certain people in different parts of towns from different backgrounds that like this individual person is in charge of distributing this information. Because throughout the pandemic on like a city and state level, there have been a lot of reactive compared to active efforts with this. Like we won't start with a lot of outreach, we'll prioritize something else, then we'll see a big cluster in a certain community, and now we're gonna like scramble up to do like a, you know, like a testing unit that go there and everything, which is great, but like these were things that could have been anticipated. So language accessibility, for example, I know there was a mention of the material that we have that maybe can be passed out for people like volunteer and translate and interpret and stuff. And this has happened on a state level too. Like there was an effort of volunteers who'd get together and take notes from the governor's daily press, and then they split it in chunks, they translate it, they post it, and that is great. And the governor at some point even acknowledged them. But my first reaction was like, why is not the government itself releasing that information in multiple languages? Like now in Fayette County, with all the back and forth about school reopenings and stuff, we have a system where the Board of Education meets every Tuesday. There's a team of 1 person per language. The moment they have the material ready to be distributed, they send it to 1 person per language. They translate a 1-page written letter that explains all the details that get emailed to all the families in the top 5 or 7 languages. And we record an audio message that goes to every single phone in the native language, short message, a minute explaining everything. And that happens on a weekly basis. It's a very efficient system that's running great. And if Fayette County Public Schools can do that for their schools reopening, why isn't the health and state governments are able to do, like, why are they not prioritizing that? And I feel that part of our effort should be making recommendations that this is why it's important to do that, and this is how we recommend you do the system. But like a system like this needs to be implemented.
Thank you very much, Basil. Just one question for you. So you say when you have all this and have them recorded in local languages that you give out to people. So how is what you've recorded? How do you pass it out?
So obviously there are going to be challenges with like the government calling people. It's easier for the school. But for the school system, whenever a family enroll, if they speak a language other than English, their like profile is flagged with that, because the family, like once they indicate that they speak a different language, then by law, the student has to have a screener to assess their language to see if they qualify for EL services. and plus the family can choose if they want to be communicated with in a language other than English. And so once they're marked in the system with their preferred language, with like basically one click, the public school can record the message in a certain language, and then they like distribute it with a recorded phone call to all the families that speak like this language or that language. And it's very smooth and easy. Like I'm the one who do it for Arabic actually. So like I know firsthand how it works, and it's very easy. Like they send us a thing, I translate it to Arabic, then I have a link that I go to. There's a campaign recording message, something, a phone number, you call, you say your message, you record it, you download it, and then we email it to the district spokesperson who upload it to their system, and then they send it to like literally every family's phone. Now, obviously, the health department or city government or state government, they're not gonna just like magically call everyone's, but my phone number is from Massachusetts, and I do receive text messages from Massachusetts health department actually. So I guess maybe it can be done, or at least like Tim said, Radio Lex, for example, who does a ton of outreach for immigrant communities, especially the Spanish speaking community, or those like ambassadors and centers that we can identify that they can spread the information. If there's a centralized system that can translate that information, then distribute it to those centers, and then those centers or like point of contacts in the community can spread it to the larger community.
Basil, what we have tried to do for years is to break into the Fayette County Public Schools system to collaborate so that we can send information more directly to them, and that we can share resources. However, that's never been possible. And there are many reasons for that. There are internal reasons to Fayette County Public Schools, and they have a very closed system. So what we would hope is that they would share those translations with the MIAAC, with Global X, with the mayor's office, with the health department, with the Emergency Operations Center, so that we could share more directly with them. Fayette County Public Schools does have a representative in the Emergency Operations Center. So Tim, I would hope that somehow the multicultural desk at the EOC and the Fayette County Public School representative could collaborate to resource each other, to leverage those very scarce resources, because the kind of translation and interpreting with the that goes on, that's a full-time job in hundreds of languages. And so we have got to connect, we have got to collaborate, because this is a pandemic that is hitting all of us. Now, with respect to Nadia's question of who do we call, we have always spread the phone number from the health department that is dedicated to the COVID information. Why? Because that has language assistance in hundreds of languages. And so that 859 number is there, it is available to the international public, and we've tried really, really hard. I think that there's a lot that our public community outside of Fayette County Public Schools can offer to support the schools and to support the families. We have, for instance, Dr. Gia Mudd has a huge group of Hispanic leaders who are in the health field. I don't know, Basil, if you've ever been in one of those meetings, but they were meeting almost weekly and then every other week. Those resources are available because the promotoras de salud, the health promoters in that group, they're 300 strong. And they have videotaped messages because the community trusts the health promoters. The community knows them. They are members of the community. And so issues of whether or not people have papers or not, that's not the problem. What we're seeing is the problem is fear. Fear of the vaccine, fear of all of the bad misinformation that's out there. So we are having to counter that misinformation. And so my hope is that perhaps one of the goals is to address the misinformation through the experts.
Okay.
Can we start off talking about initially how to better get in touch with Fayette County? Is that where we departed? I have a very close personal partnership with the Fayette County ESL department. And it may be better, instead of going through Fayette County overall, to be pointed and work directly with the ESL department for them to move things, you know, because that's their population. And I'd be glad to, you know, sit down with the chair, with the director of the department and talk with her about some ways in which we can be more effective in having a stronger partnership, because that's their daily bread and butter, and they are the biggest advocates for their populations. They would do everything for them. So if I can help, let me know.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christelle. Just like Christelle pointed out, we are now trying to tackle this point of getting the information to the local communities. I think from there, before we'll move on to the myths that is circulating among the local communities. So far, what I have heard, we had Mr. Bezel suggest about putting down information in the various languages of various local communities. And then Isabel suggested the phone number for the health department that has various languages option. So that is the number we can have local communities call to get information. And I think she also made mention of the large Hispanic community, I think a 300-man strong community that can help spread this information around. And Isabel offered using the ESL group as a resource to give out this information to immigrant community as well. I also wanted to suggest, like what I know for our African community, a lot of them belong to churches that maybe are mostly based for those populations. So I know various groups of African communities that attend specific churches. So if we could get people who could volunteer, say, to go around to some of these churches or pass out information to these churches that can be read in their notices on each Sunday. This can be a good source of giving out this information to immigrant communities.
Yeah, we found that's been a pretty effective avenue in the past for different reasons when we have like annual campaigns on winter preparedness or storm preparedness. And there's a interfaith council obviously embedded within the mayor's office, and they know and have those target groups that also tend to generally have more immigrants attending service, and that has been pretty successful for us. And going back to Isabel's comment about public schools, I mean, I've been through this with public schools too for a while, and they have a lot of that really good information, but what they give us is the top numbers, top lines. There's a variety of privacy issues that are kind of at play here too. Like, for example, we wanted to, in my division and working with Global X, we want to try to actually geographically identify certain neighborhoods or areas where we might have clusters of languages where that might be a focus area. And we started to get pushback from Fayette County Public Schools to use their data for that. So I think we also run into a little bit of privacy thing. That's why, to me, while Fayette County Schools may use good access for ESL, to sustain an outreach using their data, they're reluctant to let it get out with that much granularity. And like I said, we normally just get larger number, like here's how many are speaking French, here's how many are speaking West African dialects, here's in general, and then we kind of generally kind of look at that. But I agree with the interfaith councils, community centers. I mean, unfortunately for us, that's been the most effective way. I mean, I'm a 6'5" Irish guy, you know, and it was English is barely passable. So it's like, you know, I'm not always necessarily, you know, the best messenger, but they've got some good data. But again, we generally used it for top line numbers as to where to focus on.
So, Tim, it's really cool, all the stuff that you've already been doing, you know, on your part. I wonder how I ever overlooked seeing you in our community, a 6'5" Irish guy, you know. But so
most people don't want to see me because I'm the emergency operations person. Usually if you see me, it's a bad time, so.
Okay, well, I was wondering, for the purpose of our committee, besides having languages and how many languages we have in our community, would it not be the most effective way for us to think how to identify community leaders, whether they're in church communities or in any other way, like in social ways? And, you know, when I think about Russian people coming here, they always have people that help them to integrate in the community. They have these people that know everybody in their communities, you know.
Yeah.
And what can we do to identify those people that are trusted by their community members?
I believe a lot of this, I mean, I know that the mayor's office and branches of social services embedded have got some good info like that. I know Isabel's people do. And usually if I'm in a jam on something and I have like, whatever, an ice storm potential, or we're going to do an outreach event and donate stuff, we usually try to give Isabel's office a little bit of heads up because she's got tentacles that can kind of reach out and find these community points of contact in the various constituencies. And that's usually what we have done. And again,
so could we be more purposeful? And so we have more of a roster that we can use for all kinds of occasions, not just when something happens, and
right.
Put it together at that time, acknowledging that this is fluid, but like having the communication this way, you know. And I don't know, I mean, I wasn't aware that we had something that's already there that we can grab and use, like a roster. Do we have to do it each time when something happens, or do we have it sitting there to be pulled out to be used? The names and contacts.
From my perspective, I'm primarily in the response end of this business. So for me, it's usually as I'm approaching a problem set. And then what I do is I outreach to get some advice or assistance from like Isabel, or again, there are some, I don't even know the exact subcommittees in the mayor's office that's got pretty good contacts in these communities, but I do not retain a database. Again, I'm really preparedness some, but I'm primarily a response person. And so when I see I have that need, we go out through the multicultural person who is in our operations center when we do staff it. We only staff it if there's an actual problem. So my mechanism is fairly limited to the response side of this, less so the pre-event and sustained public campaign thing. And I do believe there are, like I said, there are some people in the mayor's office, well, subcommittees that have some good info tied in with Isabel. That's the limit of my experience. And I know Fayette County Public Health has got a pretty good pulse on some of these communities too, but I concur, it's probably not aggregated as effectively as it is, to have like an interagency, governmental, non-governmental. Hey, these are some leaders in this particular community.
Actually, Tim, we do have lists.
Yeah.
I have in there. It's like Dr. Brody said. It's very fluid because people leave, people come, and we're not always aware of new leadership, young leadership, or people that move away, but that's the hardest part of our job, is to keep those lists being effective. And we have our newsletter that has been going out for as long as Global X is. Even before then, I've worked with the Lexington government for 15 years, and this data is 15 years old. All of our community contacts, I have a long list of African community leaders. I have a long list of African church leaders. I have a long list of youth leaders. And so all of those are mostly email, and it's people that subscribe. So we may have 600 people that subscribe to the Global X newsletter. I don't know all of them. You know, they subscribe on their own. And so that is how we go out. But in addition to the newsletter list, I have my own list of people that I do know, people that do contact me and have contacted me through the last 15 years. Some of them are long lists that Rania and Yolanda and I keep together with Lynn Fors and other interpreters. They're lists of interpreters. So we have certain lists that are dedicated towards the emergency management list. We have about 118 interpreters in 42 languages. Don't hold me to those numbers, but they're very close, who have agreed to help for major catastrophic events. We have another list for the police department with interpreters who have agreed to work with the police during the midnight hours. So this is part of our work, the communicating and connecting with our international community. It extends to the academic realm, it extends to the business world, it extends across Kentucky, so that when people move back and forth, we can recommend to our counterparts in Louisville and Bowling Green and Northern Kentucky who to contact and where to go. So this is an ongoing effort, but it is an enormous effort. And so groups like the Promotoras de Salud, groups like Basel's ambassadors, groups like the EL teachers who are friends, they're on our list of international assistance.
A question that I have is that, you know, with this, Isabel, and that is really amazing and absolutely fantastic that so many people are connected. Do you feel that, you know, as the committee explores this and we have the community partners and we're wishing to engage other civic leaders that are connected to public health, that, you know, can you determine from your connection, do you still have concerns that people are not being reached? Do you know, I mean, if it's already effective, you know, we don't want to just do things that are not necessary. That's for sure.
No. Diana has really nailed the problem, because this is a community that I estimate is 72,000 people strong. We are nowhere near reaching all of the people in the languages of lesser diffusion. We have very strong connections to the Hispanic community. We have one or two connections with one or two of the 5 Mayan languages, for instance, and the Portuguese speaking community and the Dutch and other Latin American languages, French. So this is an ongoing huge issue. So the outreach committee, this is their main goal, is to create this kind of better connection, because 2 people in my office can't do what needs to be done, especially during a pandemic, right? So that building that network of communication, I think that there should be a lot of cross-committee communication with the outreach committee that Dr. Joaquin Maskey is spearheading, and their goals are aligning and dovetailing very much so with the concerns that Dr. Rashid and others have expressed.
And I would lastly add, Innocent, before I don't want to take your precious time directing the meeting, I just would say that, you know, as we think about, let's say, an estimated 70,000 plus, you know, international people within the Lexington community, you know, we are talking about how can we effectively reach that volume of people? It doesn't, as we always know, and this is true outside of this population, you're not going to reach everybody. You're not going to land everything, you know, but the goal, I think, of all agencies, including the health department and the city and all of that, is that they are effectively, that you can see the presence of that information out there, you know, that there's a presence that's felt, you know, about that information is being communicated, and certainly coordinated efforts. So I would just ask that, you know, from the overall perspective of the MIAAC Commission, and that, as Isabel spoke to, that interconnectedness of these other committees of the outreach committee, that there be a very definitive plan. And we would hope that the partners that are really central to public health, and our leaders, our doctors, our, you know, people who are dealing very specifically in these areas, will really join in this effort to write this very definitive plan, not only for today and for this pandemic, but for what we look to in the future, about other health concerns that that the international community are concerned about. Obviously, with the international community, I would add only this other caveat is, and Dr. Brody's been talking about this in her chat box as we've been, you know, chatting that's going on, is that, you know, they're just like the other communities. Some folks don't want to show up. They have fears about it, right? And how do you overcome the fear? So that fear factor, I think, and I know I'm already speaking to people who already know this, is that has to be a very critical part of how things are overcome. So we would, you know, Innocent, again, I don't want to take your time. So those are my comments. I hope you will have a very specific plan for how that can be developed for today and for in the future. So thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks everyone. I think so far we've been hammering strong on one point, the first point of getting this information to immigrant community. And we've had several contributions, and I wanted us to zero in on something and round up this point of getting this information to the community before we move on to the point of trying to bring on the people who are afraid to come out for it. So what is it we are taking out to this immigrant community? Information about vaccine?
Well, I think the information that Tim provided about the safety, I already put this on Facebook while we were meeting here, you know, for educators and church leaders and community leaders to share that there's no ICE attack on people when they show up for vaccinations. Those kind of things, you know, pushing it out there whatever way we can. I'm just hoping that ultimately we will have a plan that the whatever we can will be very pointed, and a template that we can use each time we have to communicate something. So maybe we need to first work on two issues, pushing it out because we're in an emergency situation, and at the same time working on a permanent plan that we can employ or deploy whenever needed. So two-pronged approach.
Okay, we're developing a plan that we can use to disseminate this information. And the second one, what was the second thing you said, Crystal? You said you were sending out something on Facebook.
Yeah, so many times I use the phrase, the best way we can, you know, but I would like to convert, for the purpose of our committee, the best way we can into a plan that we can deploy when something happens, like steps, you know, that we can do each time, like getting the list from Isabel and having a very, you know, a structured plan that we can deploy. So we don't have to do the best we can when something comes up. Does that make sense?
Okay.
To anybody?
Yes,
Basil?
It does.
it does.
It does. And honestly, like to your point, I think a big part of it usually, again, it's a prioritization thing, but there's always this effort is left for volunteer. I think part of this effort need to be, obviously this is costly, but this is important too. So where do we have funding? So whenever we have this kind of information, there could be a system implemented where using Isabel's list, using a partnership with the public school system, no matter what, there can be people that they can be hired to translate, distribute those messages. Like, it's always great to rely on volunteers, but the quality, the end results will always be different when you have volunteers versus you have people who are hired to do this. And this is important. This is always left for volunteers.
Well,
And
sorry, a middle point between that is always college student interns too, who need this experience, who this is important to them, but necessarily don't have to be paid, so it doesn't take away funding, but everyone benefits all around from it.
Yeah, great point.
And I would say that if you identify those types of factors and they're necessary and important, then it's part of, I think the commission and, Dr. Kalala and I's, job to figure out how to make that happen, right? If you call for it and you figure it out and that's what it is, then, we'll, do our best to, say, okay, this is what must happen, or this is important, and make it a priority.
Could I address what Dr. Tushan and Christina just said? Christina, the problem with using interns is that you have to have native level, not only linguistic ability, but cultural ability to pass this information on. And you need to have a level of translation ability that to my mind is one of the hardest things to find, to connect with. This is a limited English speaking population we're talking about. And so when the health department utilizes non-native translators, sometimes what we get are unsequenced translations. So it sounds like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Too near you are, rather than you are too near. And the message is there, and needs must. We must use what we can. But this is where I would plead for a connection between our EOC, our health department, our MIAAC, and the public schools, so that we can find those talented multilingual people in our community to help us do what Dr. Brody is suggesting, to have a plan to deploy to the right people.
Right.
Okay. Thank you all very much. I will try to round up this point now so that we can move on. So if we followed everything, I think we are agreeing here that whenever there is information that the city needs to get out to the immigrant community, we are setting up a plan in place how we can help get this information to these populations. And the suggestions that we have here, we suggested public schools. We made suggestion of faith-based communities. We made suggestion of college student interns, and there was a suggestion of ESL. And for some of this to happen, we need the information translated into the local languages of the immigrant communities. So with these translations now, I think it is this translated information that we are trying to get down to the populations. And so getting it to these populations now through these channels, to round up, can we add to this that we put out to the MIAAC committee for all representatives, if it is possible for them to find leaders of various groups in their communities, like from Africa, I have a Cameroonian group. Dr. Kalala may be able to find a Congolese group. Maybe there's a Malian group and other groups. If for each of our continents, we can find the leaders of various groups, I think getting this information to the leaders of various groups will kind of zero in on them getting it down to their various communities. Do we all agree on this, or is there something we need to adjust on it?
I
I
agree.
think that makes sense for a continuity standpoint too, because like Isabel said, if you're relying on individuals, the kind of, occasionally will come and go, that's an almost impossible task to continue to keep up with people as they come and go. To me, I recommend focusing on organizations, like I said, whether it's faith-based, whether it's civic groups. I think we even handed out information to some of the soccer clubs, that play up at Newtown Pike. But I think that's just your better bet, because even if some of those people change, those institutions stay, whether, like I said, it's faith-based through the mosque or targeted churches, or it's civic groups. I just think that that's the bang for the buck, because they're a more trusted messenger. And I completely understand the apprehension on some segments of our immigrant population. Like I said, I'm fairly traveled and experienced, and Middle East, North Africa, Central Africa, Bosnia, pretty much name it. And I get it. There's some cultural predispositions towards being hesitant to dealing with authorities, just period. Whether it's because you're afraid of the vaccine or you're afraid of whatever immigration status. That's why I think the biggest bang is going through these pre-existing groups, briefing their leadership or their people, getting trust with them, because that's golden. It's just, nothing's going to be better than to hear it from people you already know and trust than to hear it from me, for example.
One question I have, Innocent, is about timeline and about what the public health and Mr. Brandywine is talking about Brandewie. Is it Brandewie, sir?
It's Brandewie. You're fine. I've heard a lot of creative attempts.
Okay, yeah, I know. I try to get it right. Just the question is, you see, we're already in a vaccination process rollout already. You know, I mean, to some degree, we're behind, as they say, as a behind the eight ball is one of the things that, some is said. There's already a process rolling out, and this has not been we're just now talking about this at this point. I know that it's been talked about before. I'm sure Ms. Taylor has been representing all of that discussion, in her talks of getting that information out. But I guess my concern is this, we put together, formulate a plan, as Innocent is indicating, and then we come back and try to scoop up the rest of the population from, that's the only part that I need clear. I feel like I need understanding a little better about. It's already being rolled out. So do we put something together, then go back and say, here's a plan? Is that confusing? Or
yeah, I get your concern. So I think with us already being in the middle of the pandemic and vaccine delivery, if we have to wait till the next meeting, which maybe 2-3 months down the line, that will be way late. So when are we making this happen? So the plan that we've set up, when do we plan to make this happen?
That's my point, is about that thoughtful consider, about what's possible, what's achievable. How do you make this, turn that into
for us, the health committee, if I may think to that direction, I think we are taking down minutes of this meeting, and as we agree, we are supposed to make these minutes available to the general committee meeting. I guess if we are taking this information to the general committee meeting, then we are supposed to start rolling it out immediately. I think we have that meeting on the 9th, if I'm not mistaken. If we take it to them, then immediately we start maybe we start assigning committee members to take it to the leaders of identify leaders of their community to pass it on to them. I think we would have already started working on this. If somebody has some better thinking on this, we'll appreciate if you can share it.
Dr. Kalala and Diana Queen, my question is to the co-chairs, how does this relate to the outreach committee? Are we going to be doing their job, or do we need to bring them into a discussion?
Well, my opinion is, if Isabel, if you could maybe print something out with the information, not everybody from the immigrant community is tech savvy or email, all that. I know, like, from maybe the Muslim community, the Arabic community, refugees. If Isabel's office can print something out for me saying this is the phone number of the health department, and this is where it's a little bit information about the vaccinations and where to get it, I am able to take it to the local mosques and take it to the grocery stores, because that's where the Middle East immigrant population is. A lot of them are either in the mosques or they are at the grocery stores. So in the Middle East, I could do that if I have a flyer and take it to the grocery stores and they give it to them. That's the best way for that community.
Nadia, what we've been doing, and maybe we need to be more specific, but whenever we get a flyer from the health department, from EOC, from the mayor's office, or even from the governor's office, we put it out to the Global Lex listserv, and then we also put it out to our individual listservs, and Rania will send it to you. She will send it to a long list of people in the Arabic speaking community. So if we need to tailor that better or do it more specifically, I don't know. I mean, that's supposed to be how it's supposed to be happening. If it's not, we need to understand how to do it better.
Okay.
And I would add to your question, Isabel, I mean, and to Dr. Rashid, that's fantastic. You know, the problem is there's what's happening right now, and we want to hurry, you know, and get that information, you know, put out as quickly as possible. So we have to do, as Dr. Brody was saying, the best we can at this point about that. And so what are those little short-term things, as Dr. Rashid is pointing out? She can take it to the mosque, she can take it to the grocery stores. These are immediate things that can happen. So the committee, I think, has to have, like, you know, or my suggestion is those immediate things, you know, what can we do the best we can? And then the next piece is about that organized process. To your point about Isabel, is that then I think the public health committee puts together, because you're all the experts, you know, in public health, put together a great plan for the international, you know, what you would think, all the important pieces have to happen for that longer view, you know, not only for this pandemic, but maybe we do have to go back, and you have to go back and have to scoop everybody up that was kind of dropped through the sifter, you know, so to speak, to use an analogy, but you know, that and do another attempt, you know, as quickly as a very thoughtful and well-organized plan can be put together. And to your question, Isabel, is that then have the outreach committee join in, you know, in some of this conversation all along the path. You know, Innocent can talk with Dr. Maskey, who is chairing that committee, and they can collaborate together and figure out that, you know, how that will work. And then as a commission as a whole, we'll figure out, you know, all these other little pieces too. But those are my thoughts, is that there's some immediacy, and then there's a real plan, and then there's a scooping up after that happens. And then there is, you know, Innocent and Dr. Maskey working, and you also as well, Isabel, working together to really figure that out, as long as, and with our public health partners, you know. So just.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Diana, because prior to this, I've been trying to very informally get that kind of expertise. For instance, with the Hispanic community, I go to Dr. Ceballos, I go to and one of the things that this committee of experts can provide is, for instance, when I approached Dr. Ceballos for a messaging expertise for the vaccine, she turned it around for me so that I understood you cannot just tell people to take the vaccine and then that's it. No, you have to explain that they still have to wear the mask, that they still have to do the distancing, that we still don't know the efficacy, et cetera, et cetera. And so that kind of expertise, if it gets organized within this committee, that is such a blessing. And so that's the kind of expertise that we need from the medical community, from the health department, from the EOC, to address issues from a higher level of understanding.
Mm-hmm. I would like just to ask Ms. King, do you believe that, how do you think that sounds when you're hearing that? You know, and Mr. Brandewie, I mean, as you hear these thoughts, you know, you're all the point people, you know, in the community for public health. So help us understand, you know, if, you know, if what
I'll be honest with you,
is
the whole vaccination thing has been, I mean, we've been lucky to get first responders done. And I just, for a variety of issues, lack of supply, tentativeness of supply, difficulty in getting it in arms. And we're starting to work our way down into the non-public safety groups of people. Now, traditionally, we have worked with the health department and Isabel's group. The other two healthcare entities in town, which are a huge resource, are the federally qualified health centers, what we call FQHCs, which is Health First Bluegrass, as well as what's the clinic next to you guys called, Isabella? Is it now called, Isabel, is it called Bluegrass Health Clinic. Right.
It's next door to the Global X.
Right. They seem to be the ones that, between our health department, Health First, and Bluegrass, they are the ones that seem to have some of the best access to people to pass on medical knowledge. For example, people are coming in to get prescriptions or just wellness checks or whatever. And I've been in those facilities. I mean, in the short term, going to your point, this is a phased issue. Right now, you know, you're trying to build an airplane while it's flying to get people vaccinated, you know, and that's tough. And to me, the points where you can have the most bang for your buck are going to be those civic groups, churches, and it's going to be these federally qualified health clinics, which is Health First Bluegrass on Loudon, the Fayette County Health Department, and then the clinic next to Isabel. Now, I've also looked while we were on this at some of the foreign language products from CDC. They're not terribly specific about how to encouraging people to get the vaccine, but they do give very good precautions, indicators, things you should look at. And they're like one-page flyers in PDF form in about 60 languages. Granted, it's not the same as pumping up the vaccine campaign, but it gives good information. So I think at this short time, this tactical problem we have now, your best access to people is going to be through the civic groups, and especially I think those federally qualified health centers, to get info to them to pass out, because I think that's pretty invaluable.
Yeah, and I also want to say, as the person who designs most of these flyers, it breaks my heart to realize most people don't read them. Yeah. They skim them. They will read part, they will not read all. So although they are powerful and they're a tool we need, I think for this project, word of mouth, having a person that is respected and listened to in their community, giving them this information verbally is going to be way stronger than any printout we can provide. You know, I imagine people in every community have the issue with, oh, this is too long, I don't want to read it all. Or, you know, and then you break down to reading comprehension. You know, I have friends who score over genius, but when they read something, they have to read it 3 or 4 times to retain all of that information. So I really think it's a twofold. We need the written, but then we also just need someone to talk to people, to give them verbally that information and that reassurance.
If I may suggest something here as one of the short-term suggestions that haven't been mentioned too, the individual schools, like the principals, because it's their best interest to have their communities vaccinated. And to Isabel's point, yes, like Fayette County are pretty protective for various reasons of their like community and information and everything on an institutional level. But then, for example, when we were doing the census outreach, one of the different cultures and people who speak different languages tend to cluster at specific schools and neighborhoods. And so the elementary schools, for example, when we did the census operation, I reached out to one of the principals of the elementary schools that have the biggest percentage of Arabic speaking families. And usually elementary school uses an app called Class Dojo that teachers and administration use to text families. Like you text them something in English and they receive it in Arabic. And even if they respond back in Arabic, the school receives it in English. And so the principal used that platform to send messages encouraging like the census to their families. So if we face some difficulties with the like higher up on like a complete district level, maybe we can reach out to those principals, especially at the elementary level, at the schools in those neighborhoods, being like, hey, we want to do this campaign where we encourage your families to get vaccinated, and the principal will want their community to be vaccinated too. So I expect they'll be cooperating. And then maybe down the line, once we finish with this like phased rollout and we reach the point where it's open to the public, which honestly I expect like at that point, we will have more supply than demand, and we will be like begging people like, please come get the vaccine, especially from like specific subcategories. Maybe we can even do like vaccine clinics in the schools where the families are used to come and go off. And there's like that local trust factor where in partnership with the principals, we can just set like one day, they use their usual method that they use to, you know, notify parents of like family nights and stuff like, hey, come to school on this day and you can get your vaccine.
I don't doubt something like that could happen when we have enough vaccine. You have to have a minimum of Moderna. I think it's 100. You know, you can't crack it open until you have 100. You know, so I'm not discounting that. That's going to have to probably be when we get further down into the general population, what we call like category 2. I don't disagree at all, and I could see doing it in community centers too. But
yeah,
right now it's just it's difficult. I mean,
for sure. Like this is for sure like a summer, like end of spring, like summer type of thing. But it's just one of those things where hopefully we have a plan like before it starts versus reaching the point where we have like vaccine stockpiled and it's like, okay, we have this like populations that aren't being vaccinated. We have those extra vaccines. How do we like distribute them?
Okay. Yes, I just real quick, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to hop off here. I've got some winter weather coming and I have to get on with a meeting with the National Weather Service in Louisville. I will leave my email address on this if anybody has any follow-up questions or anything I could potentially assist with. Again, I'm usually more the operator responding, but as a result of being here for a long time, I have seen where we've kind of fallen short in some of this preparation. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off. I'll leave my email. Appreciate the invitation. I look forward to continuing to participate.
Thank you very much, Tim. We appreciate you very much. And I will just step in here now. So your email will, if there's anything else, we'll contact you, and we appreciate the email. So jump in here now, please. Let's round this up. For all what we've discussed so far, I think it boils down to a few things. When there's something that pertains to the pandemic response or vaccines distribution, maybe through GlobalX, through Isabel, we'll get information and we'll follow the channels that we've been discussing here today to get it down to the immigrant communities.
Mr. Aqua, I have one question, if I may.
Yes.
I was reading Ms. Christina's note to us where she says, first identify each community we would need to reach, find a spokesperson or person of contact for each community and see what they need, how they feel, etc. Christina, this is what the outreach committee has done, and we are using the school's information as to what language groups there are. There's about 96 different language groups. And so my question to Basil would be, Basil, do you think that we could get your help and the help of the people in your ambassador program to help us connect with individuals in those language groups that are of lesser diffusion? For instance, I have a person who is an intern who speaks Kannada. I have another person who speaks Marathi, but I don't have people that speak Shaluba and other languages. So could we work together either through the outreach committee or as a liaison with this committee to identify those connections that may be missing from our list?
Yeah, for sure. I know, like, the person which, I mean, I can connect us with her, like Jessica Sanchez would probably be the person best equipped to do this, because unfortunately the languages that are very rare, even for Fayette County, like, we have to rely on language line. But like Jessica would be the person who know and would be keeping track of who are the people, like which ones are the languages that we are having to rely on language line to connect to. Because unfortunately, even for like more common languages like Pashto, for example, I know this has always been like a big issue that we as a district like don't have a Pashto interpreter, even though there are like even more people who speak Pashto. But yeah, like I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, and this is where Tim mentioned the civic groups, and we have been using the Chinese American Association, the Bluegrass Indo-American Association, the Sikh Association, and the Japanese Association. So we do have a long list of associations also, but again, keeping track of the current leaders can be a problem. So anything that you could help connecting us. I don't know if Lindsay Mattingly is a good contact now that she's the outreach.
She would be. I mean, Lindsay is great. She is on the like family engagement side, and yeah, Lindsay like just great, and she's very helpful. And yeah, and I mean, Lindsay has taught EL at the public library for years too, so she has her own connection within like the EL community as well.
You're muted, Innocent.
Thanks very much. I have also tried to read through the chat in here, and I see a number of people are already volunteering, being able to take information to their communities. So now will be a matter of getting this information so that we expect every time maybe Isabel or the mayor's office has information, then we need to know what information it is we are entrusted with taking down to our various communities. So I see we spent a lot of time on this. We have about 30 minutes to the end of our meeting. And we have talked a lot on distributing or disseminating information on the pandemic and a vaccine. So the two other things that we had to share information on was the problem of people trying to stay under the radar because they are scared maybe of ICE, our undocumented immigrants. I see some people already contributed on that, and someone had mentioned that ICE has not shown up to any of the vaccine distribution centers.
So may I speak to that? Because that, I think that's getting blown out of proportion. The people that we communicate with are very comfortable going to their health providers. The health providers have always had a very high level of confidentiality that people trust in the communities. And so that has not really been a problem. I see a fear of the vaccine itself as a key problem with respect to messaging.
And part of the messaging too, the seriousness of the disease. Like I know, for example, the population that I work with, they tend to be clustered in small areas. Until early December, COVID spread like wildfire. Like almost all the families that I work with had COVID. And even after that, like you talk with the parents, you talk with the families, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, like we all had it, but like it wasn't like a big deal. And now everyone, like they talk about the vaccine and the side effects you take, especially after like the second dose, which I mean, they are significant side effects, but they only last like 36, 48 hours. And you're starting to hear a lot of people say how like the side effect from the vaccine is more serious than the disease itself. And I feel that's gonna be a big factor for people opting to not get vaccinated, especially in populations that are more prone to like misinformation and being affected by anecdotal stories, whether accurate or not. So that needs to be part of the messaging too, like why getting the vaccine is a good idea, even when you may think that, oh, it's like such like a mild disease that won't affect me. The vaccine is going to affect me more.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Baza. I think you've already started addressing the next point that we're supposed to address. If I go by what Isabel has said, we don't have a significant amount of, or a significant problem of people being scared to take the vaccine because of immigration, their immigration status. Is that right? So we don't have a very big problem there.
That is my professional opinion, and it's something that I can definitely survey our community across the board. You need to understand that undocumented are a lot of business people, a lot of international students, a lot of people that have gotten caught in the middle of this pandemic and their visas have expired. So visa expirations are currently a higher level of undocumentation. So I think that with the change of administration, a lot of people's fears have abated. But again, I want to stress the fact that most of the community members that I've talked to are very comfortable talking to their doctors about their health issues. And so this is still within the health realm, but it's, so my recommendation is that trusted medical personnel be the ones that deliver these messages.
All right, thanks, thank you very much. So quickly now, that last point, Dr. Baza already started talking on that. So we have people who think they don't need to take the vaccine. And that is the next point that we're going to address. Like Dr. Baza has mentioned, some people say they've already had COVID, so they think they are protected. They are immune to it. Some people take the vaccine and they think the side effects of the vaccine are actually worse than the disease. So these are some of the information that we need to dispel. Is there something else that we need to look at on this point?
I believe so. An effective method I saw was videos of like healthcare professionals talking about the vaccines or getting the vaccines themselves in native languages that spread on social media. Like this week, there's a organization for Lebanese healthcare professionals in the United States, and they did an interview with a local channel in Lebanon talking about the vaccine and vaccination efforts in Arabic and whatnot. And then like on Facebook, I'm a member of a bunch of group, including like the Syrian American like healthcare association and stuff like that. And everyone was sharing like that video, and families too, because lots of the immigrant families, they share a lot of like videos and snippets and stuff on WhatsApp. And that video was making the rounds as well. So if we can do maybe in partnership with the outreach committee, also an effort to have healthcare providers who are like native from certain like countries, speak certain languages, certain backgrounds, talk about the vaccines in their languages, even like possibly take videos or pictures of themselves getting the vaccines and then spreading that on social media. I think that would be an effective effort.
Okay. Thanks very much. Anybody else has any contribution to this, dispelling these myths? I was going to suggest that maybe this is a point where we need to also come back with information. So the first point, we're trying to get information to our immigrant communities. Can we make this point something that we need to come back with information from, so that our health committee be the point where we'll find out some more of these myths that would bring to this committee, and then the flyers we're talking about, we could also get flyers on some of the myths, and so that we write out what the myths we're hearing about are, and then the information that we need to pass on to dispel the myths that we are getting from the communities. Do we find that something important?
I would like to have maybe a subcommittee or a person or two people come up with the most pertinent information and presenting it in the most bulleted and shortest way possible, so people don't have to read a lot of text, and then send it to us or whoever is communicating it out in e-flyer form.
Okay, I think that's a very good idea. We get 2 persons, we delegate 2 persons to come up with information, what the common myths we are getting from our immigrant communities are, and then we'll work on those, what we need to pass on to dispel them. Did I put together correctly what you propose, Dr. Brother? Okay. All right, can we quickly agree on 2 persons to work on this now? I want to propose Dr. Basil to be one of the 2.
Yeah, I was like tapping in the chat. I'd be more than happy to.
Okay, thank you very much. One other person wants to join Dr. Basil.
Well, how about somebody from the Committee for Outreach and Communication that knows how to most pointedly get messages out?
Okay. Okay, if we agree to that, then we say we get Dr. Basil, we find out 1 person from the outreach committee that will work with Dr. Basil to come up with this information. Do we all agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I have a suggestion with respect to myths and recommendations. Dr. Gia Mudd was invited to the meeting. She was not able to make it, but she's interested in this committee. Dr. Gia Mudd is currently heading a huge $5 million research on Hispanic health. And so she's working very closely with the Hispanic community. I think that her team of promotoras de salud, health promoters, might be very adept at getting this type of information from, at least from the Hispanic community. If you want to invite her to join that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Isabel. Dr. Mott did reply to my email. She said she was going to try to attend if she had the chance, and I'm very sure she was really very occupied. And I hope we'll be getting a lot more help from her. And thanks for referring her to us. And I just wish to mention here that most of what we've discussed here, we had the team and Christina say for now, they've mostly been working with the first responders. I think we will soon be getting into the phase where we'll need to get out this information more, because when the vaccine phase moves down to the communities or to different communities or the communities at large, then that's when we'll really need our various communities to get that information. I think now the elderly, I think some of them are being caught up now. So we need to keep an eye on that, watch out for that information and know when we need to get out which information to which sections of our communities. So thank you everybody very much for the pandemic response and the vaccines. If I would just—
Excuse me, Innocent, just a question. Will the committee be also drafting a larger plan for, is that, I'm just asking, is that part of what the committee is going to be doing, is drafting kind of that response, a health response for certain, topics, or is that not a part of what you'll be doing?
Well, I think I want to throw this to the floor. Anybody has any suggestions? Because for now we've mostly dwelt on the pandemic and response to the pandemic. Shall we be working on other topics besides this?
One of the topics that the Mayor's Equity Commission has addressed is the disparity in health, access in health, and for our minority populations, and the limited English speaking population may have specific barriers. Most of the hospitals and the clinics that I'm familiar with have the provision of interpreters and very good translation services. However, the private doctors are not really providing that kind of care all the time. That's what we hear. So I don't know if this committee would, outside of the pandemic response, might want to study some of the recommendations that health committee of that commission of equity pointed out, to see if that brings out any of the barriers that the international community may be facing.
My point is that outside, I guess, I'm curious, because this is the Public Health and Emergencies Committee, just to say that there's probably lots of public health matters that are outside of this very pressing pandemic that would help in the longer view, for any public health matter for the international community. And what are, would there be some type of understanding what those public health priorities are, and a very specific plan that the committee could put forward for messaging or communication, or some very specific way that the committee could respond to that. And I don't want to steer off track. It's just a question that longer view beyond the pandemic, would that be a part of that or not? Or would you consider that, just as a question? That's all.
Okay. Well, thanks very, very much. I think for the purposes of time, we have just 15 minutes left. And I think the pandemic, we all agree it's very important. We have spent a whole lot of our time on the pandemic.
Calling to get you pre-registered for the upcoming service. If you'll please give us a call back at your earliest convenience.
I think the pandemic is important, and we spent a lot of time discussing on the pandemic.
You have a great day.
So if we would maybe summarize what we discussed on the pandemic, and then other topics, we heard Isabel had started something on reaching more access to immigrant communities to the health system. Maybe let's make this a point of discussion in our next meeting. Does everybody agree with that?
Sure.
Yes, for the purpose of time. Then quickly, it will be very important for us to get dates for our next meetings. If it is all right with everybody, can we all agree on dates of the rest of our meetings for the rest of the year?
Yes. It's always better for me the last 2 weeks of the month.
2 weeks of the month. So
I cannot do any Wednesdays.
it is a Wednesdays or no Wednesdays? No Wednesdays.
No Wednesday.
That's 2 weeks of the month, no Wednesdays. Okay. And one thing too, I think we need to work with the commission meetings. I think Dr. Kalala already put out the meeting dates for the year so that we hold our meetings before those commission meetings, since we need to report to the commission before each meeting. Dana, please, do you have the meeting dates handy?
Give me just a second. Let me see if I can.
The quarterly meetings,
Yes, the quarterly meetings. That's
okay, February 19th, May 21, November 20th, November 19.
Did you say November 19 or 20th?
19.
November 19th. Okay, this meeting we are holding now, it's already against February 19th. So let's cover that one. So our next meeting should hold before May 21st. Can we propose dates for that, please?
Yeah, we're asking for the report outs from each committee to be at least a week to 10 days in advance of our executive committee leadership meeting. So we can get the report, the summary report from the committees, and then we can turn that into the executive leadership agenda so we can prioritize. Thank you. Just wanted to share.
So we may therefore need to hold our meeting between the week of the last week of April and the first week of May. Can we propose dates around those weeks, please?
April 29, Thursday?
April 29th, that's a Friday.
No, it's a Thursday,
Thursday.
29.
Or Thursday. April
Works
29th.
for me, Nadia.
Huh?
Does that work for you, Krista?
Yes.
Okay. So
10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Is that a good time for everybody?
what time?
10 a.m. maybe?
Was the time today good? 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
10 o'clock is good.
April 29, 10 o'clock. And then the meeting after that. So we should be before November 10. So it will be between the last week of October and first week of November.
Well, did you skip August 20th?
Oh, I think I missed that one.
Yeah, August 20th is the one after.
So there was August 20th. Okay. Meeting before that date of August 20th.
How about the 12th?
So if we maintain Thursdays, so the 12th will be just 1 week to this meeting, and we need to give a report 7 to 10 days.
Well, I was just looking at what Nadia said about the last 2 weeks of a month being better for her. Nadia, how does, what time do you
Okay,
have?
I mean, can we do July 29?
July 29th, I think. Is that okay with you, Krista?
Fine.
July 29th. Okay, so we have April 29th, July 29th, so 10. And the last meeting, it's November 10th.
Last one is November 19 for the quarterly commission meeting.
Or November 19th. Okay.
So can we do October 28?
October 28th. That will be the Thursday too.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
October 28th. Okay. All right, so we have our meetings for April 29th, July 29th, and October 28th, 10 a.m.
Correct.
That's good. All right. Anything else we want to quickly discuss in our remaining 5 minutes? Okay. If there is nothing else we think we should discuss, I want to thank everybody very much. And I will round up again. We said for our pandemic response and our vaccines rollout, that's what we worked the most on today. And we discussed on how to get information out to our communities. We looked at the idea of some people not being very confident to come out, which maybe we said we don't see that a lot. If we should gather a lot more on that, we'll bring it to our committee and look more at it. And lastly, we looked at the problem of the myths around the vaccine. People among the immigrant communities who maybe are putting out reasons for not wanting to take the vaccine. And we also agreed on how to work on that with Dr. Basil, helping us a lot with coming back with information on it. I think that is the most of what we discussed. Anybody wants to add in something again?
I wanted to ask you, do we have a deadline by which we want to have the communication completed to push out, or have we discussed that, or?
Okay. So I was thinking, I think someone is taking down our minutes. Our minutes will be developed, and those minutes will be turned into the co-chairs. So we should be able to hear this at the next meeting, on the meeting on the 19th.
No, I mean the message that we pushed out to our communities that Basil and somebody else are working on.
Okay.
When do we have a date by which we want to have that so we can all use it to push it out?
Okay, I see. I misunderstood that from the beginning. So, Dr. Vezet, is it if we try to agree that we get it by our next committee meeting?
I think that'd be late. It's like I can do earlier than that, but I was actually going to ask Isabel, like, how do I connect with the person you suggested I cooperate with on this? Can you please make the introduction?
Absolutely. I'll work with you on this.
Okay, perfect.
And I would just add, Innocent, that with other committee chairs, you don't have to always align. I mean, you can certainly, it's important the alignment happen before the executive leadership committee, meets, at least that amount of time. But if your committee chooses to meet once a month or wants to meet on some other kind of schedule, I just want to add that, that's up to your committee and to you as the chair to, for you all to meet as many times as you like, before our executive committee meets and the full commission.
Okay. So Dr. Basil says he will actually be able to put something together long before that meeting.
Yeah, like I do think, like Dr. Brody's point, like the time is of the essence, and I'm pretty flexible. Like I can prioritize this. I can do it rather quickly.
Can we all agree to an extraordinary meeting, an emergency meeting out of these dates that we agreed on, just to trash that particular case? Yes, Dr. Brody is committing to that.
I'm okay with that too.
Nadia?
I didn't understand the question.
So we were looking at the possibility of convening an extraordinary meeting just to take a look at what Dr. Basil will be working on.
Sure.
Okay. So in that case, let's agree on a date, place to convene a meeting. Can we choose a date? Like, how many weeks are you looking at, Dr. Basil?
I mean, For me, I'm super flexible, can do it super quickly. I'm not sure, since Isabel recommended cooperating with someone else. So I think I'll have to touch base with them first, because I'm not sure what kind of timeline they're working with. For me, if we're doing like the Thursdays toward the end of the month, I mean, I'm fine with February 18, February 25, but I'm not sure.
Do you
Because
think
like almost
on the 25th, you will have something in hand, and that would work for Nadia too?
Okay. All right. So can we meet on Friday, on Thursday, the 25th of February then?
Sure.
So, sure. Okay. So we will try to meet on Thursday, the 25th of February. We'll contact Melissa to see if she can make this happen for us again in this medium that we're using today. And we would communicate by email before this date. All right. Okay. Thank you all very much once more. I want to appreciate everybody who showed up and for your wonderful participation. Together, we'll all make a good thing happen for our committee and for the city. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Innocent.
Thank everyone.
Thank you all.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you all too.
Bye.
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 Innocent, do you feel good about it?
Well, I'm getting there.
You did a great job. Great job.
Yes, you did. You did a great job.
I think so, Dr. Kalala.
I'm glad it's over. I think I made it.
Woo! It's a,
No,
it's, I tell you what, it's not easy, is it?
It's not easy.
And but you did a great job. You just did that so well. That was so good. That was really great.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And I've just what I was saying just that about the beyond the pandemic. I don't know, Innocent, if your committee wants to address something like that. I just wanted to, because you were pointing out that, maybe it's a two-pronged kind of approach. And I was trying to come back and support you about that two-pronged approach. So
yeah, so for now we know the pandemic is taking up all the oxygen, and I don't mind that we devoted that much time to it. So since Isabel suggested that there's problem of access, and I don't know how much of the immigrant community uses much of the private health services. Yes. So if it is something that is important enough, then I think the committee should not mind addressing that as well.
Okay. Okay. And I want to share with you, Dr. Kalala and I are starting to work on this now, and we'll talk about it more in the Executive Leadership Committee with all the chairs. But we do intend that toward the end of probably, and we're not exactly certain when this will happen, but we want to provide the chairs with the opportunity to speak directly to the city council and to the mayor's office. So that your committee's voice, collective voice, right? And about public health and the emergencies and how that messaging or whatever you all see as a committee as the, critical points, that you'll be able to address the city council or a committee of the council or the mayor's office directly.
Okay.
So I just want you to know that kind of putting all those things in that basket are going to turn into a report out, to the council.
Okay. Okay, good.
And, right, Dr. Kalala, isn't that our plan, I think?
That's exact. That's correct.
Yeah. So, but you did a great job today. Wow, that was cool. And look here, look at the time. You were like, let's see.
You finished on time too, yeah.
Yeah, you had like a minute to spare. That was really good.
Yeah.
That is good. That is good. Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Great job. And remember just to get your minute, after Isabel puts the minutes together, you'll go back to Melissa. She'll turn them back to you. And then you will look them over and see if you agree, you know what I mean, that they're accurate. And then from there, you will contact Melissa McCart-Smith and ask her to post the minutes on the Boards and Commissions website, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
that way the community as a whole can see what you did. And they can also, everyone, this recording will be posted with it, and they can attend this meeting. You know, the public at large can hear what you did, what your committee did.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
very much. Yeah. It's a learning curve. I think I'll get there.
You're going to get there. You're already getting there. I was just saying, I was like,